Britain in the 1940s was a nation rebuilding from rubble. Factories that once built bombers were now attempting to build family cars, and the results were often catastrophic. Steel shortages, rushed engineers, pre-war designs dragged painfully into a new decade, and manufacturers who simply did not care enough. All of it combined to create some of the most embarrassing vehicles ever to roll down a British road. Owners trusted these machines with their livelihoods, their families, and their dignity. Most of them paid a heavy price for that trust. And the car waiting at number 1? It nearly destroyed everything. Number 10, Standard 8. At number 10, we begin with the Standard 8, a car that promised modernity but delivered misery dressed in sensible sheet metal. Standard Motor Company rushed this vehicle into production almost immediately after the war ended, keen to capture the desperate appetite for new civilian transport. The problem was that new was a generous description. The engine was a tiny 803cc side valve unit producing barely enough power to embarrass a bicycle, and the 4-speed gearbox fought drivers at every gear change as though it had a personal grudge. Braking was so weak that experienced mechanics quietly advised owners to start slowing down well before they actually needed to stop. Rust arrived almost apologetically, as if even the metal was ashamed. Can you imagine paying your hard-earned post-war wages for something that corroded before the warranty conversation had even finished? Standard's reputation quietly began to wobble. But compared to what's coming next, the Standard 8 was practically a triumph. Number 9, Jowett Javelin. Number 9 carries a particularly painful irony. The Jowett Javelin was genuinely ambitious, a streamlined, modern-looking saloon that arrived in 1947 looking like Britain had finally caught up with the future. Jowett's engineers in Bradford designed a flat-four engine that was genuinely advanced for its era, and the aerodynamic body turned heads at motor shows. Buyers were excited. That excitement curdled quickly. The engine ran hot, and without adequate cooling management, head gasket failures became almost routine. Owners who drove regularly, as, presumably, one does with a car, discovered the gearbox had a maddening tendency to lock up completely mid-journey, stranding families on country roads with no warning whatsoever. Jowett poured money into fixes that never quite fixed anything, and the financial strain eventually contributed to the company's collapse in 1954. All that promise, all that boldness, undone by an engine that simply could not cope. And the next manufacturer made almost exactly the same mistake, but louder. Number 8, Lee Francis 14 HP. Lee Francis had a respectable enough history before the war, which is precisely what made the 14 HP such a quiet humiliation. Relaunched in 1946, this mid-size saloon was aimed squarely at the professional class, doctors, solicitors, businessmen who wanted something dignified and dependable. What they received instead was a car that vibrated persistently at motorway speeds, as though permanently disagreeing with the road beneath it. The 1767cc engine produced reasonable power on paper but translated it to the wheels with startling inefficiency, and fuel consumption made owners wince every time they approached a petrol pump. The bodywork, assembled under difficult post-war supply conditions, developed rattles and squeaks within months that no amount of workshop attention could permanently silence. Imagine explaining to a client that you'd be slightly late because your prestigious motorcar had developed the structural integrity of a wooden drawer. Lee Francis never truly recovered its pre-war prestige after this era. But another manufacturer was preparing an even more spectacular stumble. Number 7, Wolseley 8. Wolseley carried genuine cachet in 1940s Britain. The illuminated badge on the grille was a symbol of quiet respectability, and buyers paid extra precisely for that promise. The Wolseley 8, relaunched post-war in 1946, accepted those premium payments and then largely failed to honor them. The 918cc engine was pre-war in every meaningful sense, tuned with no enthusiasm and delivering performance so modest that overtaking required advanced planning and considerable optimism. The leather interior, often cited in promotional material, deteriorated faster than the price tag suggested it should, with stitching loosening and seat padding compressing within 2 years of purchase. Mechanically, the cooling system had an unfortunate habit of becoming blocked, leading to overheating episodes that left owners stranded and furious on roadsides across England. Would you have kept faith with a brand charging premium prices for budget-level reliability? Many loyal Wolseley buyers asked themselves exactly that question. The next car, however, made even loyal customers feel abandoned. Number 6. Bond Mini Car Mark A. If the previous entries at least looked like proper motorcars, number 6 abandoned that pretense entirely. The Bond Mini Car Mark A arrived in 1949 as one of Britain's earliest microcars, a three-wheeled construction built from aluminium over a tubular frame, powered by a single-cylinder V8 motorcycle engine producing a barely credible 122 cc. Sharp's commercials of Preston marketed this contraption as affordable personal transport for post-war austerity Britain, and in fairness, it was certainly affordable. It was also terrifying. The single front wheel provided steering that could generously be described as approximate, and the complete absence of a reverse gear meant that any parking situation requiring backwards movement required the driver to physically climb out and push. In the rain, on a hill, in a suit. That alone would have been enough for most people, yet owners bought them in surprising numbers, because nothing cheaper existed. What came next cost considerably more, and still managed to disappoint even more completely. Number 5. Armstrong Siddeley Hurricane. By number 5, we enter genuinely expensive territory, which makes the failure considerably more painful. Armstrong Siddeley relaunched the Hurricane in 1945 as a prestige drop-head coupe, a car for Britain's upper-middle class who wanted elegance and performance to accompany their recovery from wartime hardship. The price was steep. The 16 HP overhead valve engine was smooth enough, but the pre-selector gearbox, already an aging technology by 1945, confused new owners constantly and punished any misuse with expensive mechanical complaints. The coachwork, while beautiful in showroom light, proved vulnerable to British weather in ways that premium buyers simply did not expect. Water found its way into door seals and boot lids with remarkable persistence, and rust began its quiet work on expensive bodywork within years of purchase. How does a manufacturer charge luxury prices and deliver weatherproofing this unreliable? Armstrong Siddeley's customers asked similar questions. But the real indignity of this decade was still building itself, car by car. Number 4. Crossley Regis. Number 4 belongs to a manufacturer that arguably should have known better. Crossley Motors of Manchester had been building vehicles since the Edwardian era, and their post-war re-entry with the Regis Saloon in 1946 was anticipated by a loyal regional following. That loyalty was tested severely. The Regis used an aging four-cylinder engine that had seen service before the war and had not benefited meaningfully from the intervening years, delivering power unevenly and consuming oil at a rate that kept accessory shops in business. The chassis flexed noticeably on uneven road surfaces, and in 1940s Britain, nearly every road surface was uneven, creating a handling experience that passengers described with consistent alarm. Dealers struggled to source replacement parts because Crossley's supply chains, disrupted by the war, never fully recovered. Owners waited months for components that should have been standard stock. Crossley exited passenger car production entirely by 1952, and the Regis was a significant reason why. What follows next made even this look manageable. Number 3. Allard M-Type. The top 3 represent a different category of failure entirely, not simple unreliability, but fundamental misjudgment. At number 3, the Allard M-Type of 1947 presents a case study in magnificent incoherence. Sidney Allard had genuine talent for building fast, dramatic machinery, and his early sports cars earned real respect. The M-Type was his attempt at a proper family saloon, and the mismatch between Allard's instincts and the saloon car market's expectations was immediate and visible. The Ford V8 engine sourced for many examples produced spirited power entirely unsuited to a car with chassis flex, unpredictable handling geometry, and bodywork that creaked through corners as though filing a formal complaint. Families who purchased the M-Type expecting Allard's sporting reputation to translate into everyday reliability discovered that sporting character and domestic dependability are not automatically the same thing. The looks attracted buyers. The experience drove them away. If that sounds uncomfortable, what's waiting at number 2 will make it feel almost reasonable. Number 2. Invicta Black Prince. Number 2 is where embarrassment becomes something closer to tragedy. The Invicta Black Prince arrived in 1946 carrying extraordinary ambitions and an extraordinary price, somewhere in the region of £3,000 at a time when a decent family home cost less. Invicta promised a revolutionary twin-cam 6-cylinder engine paired with an innovative Brockhaus hydrokinetic transmission, essentially an early automatic gearbox. The concept was genuinely forward-thinking. The execution was a disaster that unfolded in slow motion. The transmission failed with depressing regularity, and replacement parts were virtually impossible to source because Invicta's production numbers were tiny and their supply chain even more fragile. Fewer than 25 examples were built before the company collapsed entirely, leaving owners of Britain's most expensive car unable to have it properly repaired. Imagine spending £3,000, a life-changing sum in 1946, on a car that became a very costly garden ornament. Yet even this extraordinary failure didn't earn the top position. That distinction belongs to something far more notorious. Number 1. Triumph 1800. And here we arrive at the car that earns the top position not simply for mechanical failure, but for the particular cruelty of its disappointment. The Triumph 1800, launched in 1946, carried a name that meant something. Triumph had history, reputation, and a loyal following that survived the war intact. Buyers trusted that name completely. That trust was systematically dismantled. The 1800cc engine ran reasonably enough in isolation, but paired with a gearbox that selected gears with all the confidence of a man guessing in the dark, the driving experience quickly became an exercise in frustration. Body rattles appeared within months. Rust began its work on expensive panels long before it had any right to. The interior, marketed as refined, revealed its shortcuts within a single British winter. Owners had paid premium money for a premium name and received something considerably less. What makes this the worst? Because Triumph knew better, and they built it anyway. Britain deserved far more than this. 10 cars. One devastated decade. From the Standard 8's premature rust to the Kendall's almost philosophical commitment to unreliability, the 1940s gave British motoring some of its most spectacular failures. These weren't just bad cars, they were reflections of a nation struggling to rebuild while manufacturers cut corners, chased markets, and occasionally forgot to make their vehicles actually work. Which of these surprised you most? Drop your answer in the comments, we genuinely read everyone. If you want more journeys through Britain's forgotten automotive disasters, subscribing keeps you on the right road. This has been Britain Rewind. We'll see you in the next amazing video.